It has been exactly 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Today, leaders from Europe and Canada have been showing their support in Kyiv. Sir Keir Starmer has paid tribute to President Zelenskyy, pledging new sanctions against Russia. Despite this support from Europe, the anniversary comes with fresh uncertainty about any peace deal, with Russia launching the single largest drone attack since the war began. Well, joining me to talk about this now is Yevheniia Kravchuk, who is an elected deputy of the Ukrainian Parliament. Yevheniia, thank you for joining me. It has obviously been a very distressing 3 years. What is the feeling and the mood in Ukraine at the moment?
Well, if you compare it to the 24th of February 2022, there was uncertainty because, we didn't know whether we will have partners standing with us, whether we will have the military support. And we actually had ourselves to believe in, and our own army, and so many brave men and women that voluntarily joined the army. The Russian plan was to seize Kyiv in 3 days. So here we are 3 years after, with all of these European leaders, and not just Europe, but, Canadian Prime Minister coming. A lot of members of parliament from different countries visiting Kyiv right now. And actually, today we had a great meeting with cross-party delegation from the UK, from House of Commons, and that was actually the biggest delegation from all of the national parliaments. And of course, achieving the peace, and Ukrainians, of course, are the nation that wants peace, most of it, because we are losing people. But on this path to peace, first, it has to be long-lasting. We cannot agree to some ceasefire, appeasement of the aggressor, as it was in 1938 with Nazi Germany, to give, Czechoslovakia. They gave Czechoslovakia in 1938. And what happened next? The Second World War, because Hitler didn't want to stop. So it's the same thing. We cannot do the appeasement. We have to stay strong and not forget who is the bad guy and who is the good guy, right? Like, who was attacked? Because right now you can see and you can hear all of these Russian narratives that it was the NATO's fault, it was threats from NATO to Russia. Well, I'll give you the arguments. After 2022, after the full-scale invasion, Finland joined NATO, and Finland has 1,100 kilometers border with a Russian Federation. So when they say, oh, we're afraid of the missiles on the Ukrainian territory that can fly to Moscow in 6 minutes, well, guess what? From Finland, it's even faster. And, Finland was admitted to NATO. So it's not about NATO. It's about Ukraine and Russia not seeing Ukraine as a sovereign country.
Yevheniia, your allies would understand that, and I don't think any of them would argue with the stance that you and others in Ukraine are taking. The problem is that Russia obviously disagrees with that, and at the moment it would appear that Russia has the ear of the United States. How troubled are you about that, and how confident are you that any peace deal will actually be fair and will be enforceable?
Look, Ukraine didn't give in to any of the ultimatums on the 24th of February of 2022, with the very uncertainty ahead, right? Was not knowing what happens next. So we are not given into any ultimatums now in 2025, having the biggest and strongest army among all of the allies on the European continent. We have 800,000 people serving in the army, fighting for the democracy, basically, and the freedom of choice to be a sovereign country. We pumped up our own military production. We'll be able to create, to manufacture up to 2 million drones during the last year, and we will be pumping the production right now. Is it hard? Is it hard to live in the country that is under full-scale invasion? Of course it's hard. In Kyiv, if you don't have the earplugs, you cannot sleep, because every night you have the Shaheds. But look, Russia is not fighting on its own. they had to bring North Korean troops on the ground, basically helping them in Kursk region. And we still are holding part of Kursk region. Russia had to take the Iranian drones because they cannot, manufacture their own. So, like, they had to take this production.
But Yevheniia, Russia is slowly but surely gaining ground, isn't it? So what do you think is going to happen next? What will it take to bring this to an end?
If we take the formula peace through strength, obviously it's Ukraine that has to be stronger. And the allies around Ukraine need to be stronger. I think that Europe already stepped in. Should Europe step in more because it's the security on European continent? I think so. And it's not just European Union, obviously. We would need the support of United Kingdom as well, because you are part of European continent and part of this security agenda. We might think about the sort of another security architecture, because I'll tell you what, I mean, countries such as Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia are quite afraid what will happen with the Article 5 if Russia actually will attack. And right now you see in Baltic Sea all these hybrid attacks with the cables that accidentally were torn apart by the shadow fleet of Russian Federation. So basically you are maybe not at war, but you are not at peace as well. So it has to be a common solution. And about these territorial gains, as Russia says, Ukraine will never acknowledge that these territories are occupied. So we might not control them. As, for example, Germany was divided for many, many years after the Second World War. But Ukraine will never acknowledge the occupation of these territories, and nor should the civilized world, because that will mean that any country that has troops, nuclear power, millions of weapons can go and invade other countries, saying that, oh, look, the rules are not applying anymore. And of course, we need security guarantees of non-repetition. That we all need.
All right. Yevheniia Kravchuk in Kyiv. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.